Hayes stood on his porch with a cup of coffee growing cold in his hands. The morning was like any other morning on his farm in the Appalachian Mountains. The sun was rising slow and steady, painting the sky orange and pink. The fields stretched out in front of him, green and ready for the next season. It had been 3 years since his wife died, 3 years of quiet mornings and quiet nights. He had gotten used to the silence. Some days he thought that was a good thing. Other days, the silence pressed down on him like a heavy weight. He walked down from the porch and moved toward the fields. His boots made soft sounds in the grass. The morning air was cool and clean. He had work to do, the crops needed attention, the fences needed fixing. This was his life now, steady, simple, alone. Around midday was working on the eastern fence when he heard something that did not belong. It was not a sound exactly. It was more like the air itself had changed. He stopped and looked up from the fence post he was repairing. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then he noticed something wrong near the tree line about 200 yards away. Something large was moving through the forest. The trees shook as if pushed by strong wind, squinted. His heart started to beat faster. Whatever was coming through those trees was big, very big. He dropped his tools and walked toward the tree line. He did not know why he did this. Fear told him to run. Common sense told him to get inside the house and call for help, but something else pulled him forward. Something in him wanted to know what was happening. The thing burst through the final line of trees. Stopped dead, his breath caught in his throat. For a moment he could not move or speak or think. It was a dragon. It was real, it was breathing. It was walking across his field with heavy, uneven steps. It was covered in scales that looked like polished armor. Colors of deep blue and black covered its body. Its wings were torn and damaged, with holes torn through the membrane. Blood dripped from several places on its body. Its head hung low as it moved. His first thought was that he was dreaming. This was not real. Dragons were not real. They belonged in stories and films and children's books, but could feel the ground shaking under his feet as the creature walked. The smell of burned metal and something hot filled the air. The dragon saw and slowed its pace. Its head turned toward him. Its eyes were large and intelligent. They were not the eyes of an animal. They were the eyes of something that thought and knew and understood. In those eyes saw exhaustion, pain, desperation. The dragon took another step, then another. Its front right leg buckled. The creature fell hard to the ground with a sound like thunder. Dust rose up from the impact. Stood frozen for only a moment. Then something inside him moved. He started walking toward the fallen dragon. His legs felt unsteady, but they carried him forward. The dragon's breathing was heavy and rough. Its sides heaved up and down. It was suffering. Could see wounds across its body, deep cuts, burned areas. This creature had been in a battle. Something had fought it and nearly killed it. Came close to the dragon's head. He was still terrified. Any second the creature could kill him with a single movement. But the dragon did not move. It just lay there breathing hard. Its eye tracked as he came near. Knelt down in the dirt next to the dragon's head. Up close, the scales were beautiful. They caught the light and glowed with deep colors. The dragon's breathing slowed slightly, reached out very slowly and touched the creature's neck. The dragon did not attack. It did not pull away. It seemed to settle at the touch. Spoke in a soft voice. The same voice he had used with frightened animals on his farm. The same voice he had used with his wife when she was in pain at the end. My name is, I do not know what you are or where you came from, but you are hurt. You need help. The dragon made a low sound. It was not a roar. It was something quieter, something that might have been a voice trying to communicate. Made a decision. It was not a rational decision. A rational man would have run or called the authorities, but had been alone for 3 years. He had learned to follow his gut instead of his brain. Come on, I have a barn. It is warm and safe. You can rest there. He did not know if the dragon understood him, but he stood and walked toward his property. He did not look back to see if the creature would follow. He just walked. Behind him, he heard movement. The dragon was getting to its feet. It was moving in his direction, did not stop. He led the creature toward his barn. The sun was starting to drop in the sky now. The day was already turning into evening. The barn was old but sturdy. Had built it with his father 30 years ago. He pushed open the heavy wooden doors. Inside, hay and tools and the smell of earth filled the space. He had room, more than enough room. The dragon squeezed through the barn doors. It had to lower its head and bend its shoulders to fit. Inside, it stretched out on the hay-covered ground. The creature was so large that it took up half the barn's space. Its tail extended all the way to the back wall. Stood in the barn doorway watching. The dragon's eyes were closing. Exhaustion was taking over. Went to his house and gathered supplies. Cloth for bandages, clean water, whatever medicine he had. He had no idea if any of it would help a dragon, but he had to try. For the rest of the night worked. He cleaned the dragon's wounds as best he could. He applied antiseptic cream and wrapped cloth around the deeper cuts. The dragon stayed still and let him work. It was as if the creature knew was trying to help. By midnight was exhausted. He sat in the hay next to the sleeping dragon. The creature's breathing was steadier now, easier. "What are you?" whispered into the darkness. "Where did you come from?" The dragon did not answer. It just breathed in and out, its massive body rising and falling in the shadows of the barn. Had no idea that he had just made a decision that would change everything. He had no idea that the creature sleeping next to him was not just any dragon. He had no idea that he had just saved the most important life in the entire galaxy. The weeks passed slowly. Had developed a routine with the dragon. Each morning, he would bring fresh water and food. He had no idea what dragons ate, so he started with vegetables from his garden and meat from his freezer. The dragon ate some of it and refused other things, paid attention to what it liked. He adjusted. The dragon's wounds were healing. The deep cuts were closing. The burned areas were turning from red and raw to dark and scabbed, continued to clean the injuries and wrap them with fresh cloth. The dragon seemed to understand that was helping. It did not try to run or fight. After 2 weeks, the dragon stood for the first time. It was shaky, but it stood, watched from the barn doorway as the creature tested its weight on each leg. Pain seemed to flash across the dragon's face when it put pressure on its right front leg, but it kept standing. By week 3, the dragon was walking around the barn. By week 4 was certain the creature could fly again. The torn wings were mending. Scales had grown back over some of the damage, but the dragon did not leave. One evening, sat outside the barn and the dragon came out to join him. The night was cool and clear. Stars filled the sky above them, had started talking to the dragon regularly. He told it things he had never told anyone. "I called it a day today when I finished the south field," said, sitting in the dirt. "My wife used to help me with that field. She would drive the tractor while I checked the soil. She was better at it than I was. Everything was better when she was here. After she died, the fields felt too big and too empty." The dragon made a soft, rumbling sound. It was the closest thing to a voice had heard from the creature. The sound was deep and seemed to come from somewhere very far inside the dragon's chest. Looked at the creature. In the starlight, the dragon's eyes glowed faintly. "I do not even know your name," said. "I have been calling you Atlas in my head because you seem to carry something heavy with you. Something you are running from, is that right?" The dragon did not answer with words, but it lowered its huge head and rested it on the ground near. That was answer enough. Over the next few days, began to understand that the dragon was more than just an animal. It was intelligent. It understood him. One afternoon was sitting on a stool in the barn repairing a halter. The dragon watched him work. After finished tying a knot, he looked up. The dragon had watched his hands the entire time. It was studying him, learning from him. "You are a lot smarter than you let on," said. The dragon made a series of low rumbling sounds, was starting to think of them as words. The dragon was trying to talk, but its voice was too deep and alien for it to understand the meanings. Still listened. He always listened. 2 months after the dragon arrived, something changed. Was working in his garden when he heard the sound of vehicles. They were not on his property yet, but they were coming down the mountain road that led to his farm. Felt a chill run down his spine. He walked quickly back to the barn. The dragon was lying in the hay. It lifted its head as entered, touched the creature's neck and made a gesture toward the back of the barn. "Hide." The dragon did not move, repeated the gesture with more urgency. This time, the dragon stood and moved deeper into the barn, settling behind some large wooden crates and farm equipment. Closed the barn doors just as the vehicles turned onto his property. 2 black trucks pulled up in front of the house. Men in dark uniforms got out. They wore patches on their sleeves that did not recognize. They looked serious and dangerous. The man in front was tall with a scar on his face. "Excuse me," the man called out. "I am looking for the property owner." I am Hayes walked toward them slowly. "What do you want?" "We are looking for something." The man looked at directly. "Something large, something that does not belong out here. Have you seen anything unusual?" No, said, I have not seen anything. The man studied face for a long moment, forced himself to stay calm and breathe normally. Inside his chest, his heart was pounding hard. We received reports of a large creature in this area. The man continued. You would have noticed if you saw it. I keep to myself and my work, said. I do not know anything about any creature. The man did not believe him, could see it in the man's face, but he had no evidence. He had no reason to search the property, not yet. If you see anything, you will call this number. The man handed a card. You do not try to hide it. You do not try to help it. You understand. I understand, said. The men got back in their trucks and drove away, waited until the sound of their engines faded into the distance. Then he ran to the barn. The dragon was waiting for him. Who are they? Said, breathing hard. Who is looking for you? The dragon made sounds, long, complicated sounds that could not understand. But he understood the fear in them. He understood the desperation. Whatever had brought this creature to his farm, it was dangerous, very dangerous. Realized something in that moment. He had made a choice to help this dragon, and that choice had consequences. If those men came back, they would find it. If they found it, they would kill it. And they might kill him too. He should have been scared. A week ago, he would have been terrified, but had lived alone for 3 years with nothing but his grief. He had learned how to be quiet and how to survive on his own. He had learned how to make hard choices. I will not let them take you, said to the dragon. I do not know what is happening or why you are running, but I will not let them take you. The dragon lowered its head and rested it against chest. In that moment, something changed between them. They were no longer just a man and a creature that had found each other by accident. They were allies. They were friends. 3 weeks later, the dragon revealed the truth. It happened on a night when the moon was full and bright, and the dragon sat outside the barn, away from any light that could be seen from the road. The dragon made sounds, long, deep, terrible sounds. This time understood that the dragon was trying harder than ever before to communicate. Listened. He waited. He did not interrupt. Then something changed in the dragon's eyes. It was as if the creature had found a new way to speak. Images flooded into his mind, not words exactly, but visions, pictures that the dragon was putting directly into his brain. So a massive hall filled with beings from across the universe, creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some had wings. Some had many arms. Some looked almost human. They were gathered around a great table, and the dragon sat at the head of it. More images came. The dragon was giving orders. Other creatures listened to the dragon, respected it, feared it. The dragon was a leader, a commander of something vast and powerful. Then the images changed. The dragon was in a ship, a sleek vessel moving through the darkness of space. The dragon was traveling to a meeting, an important meeting that would decide the fate of worlds. But something went wrong. Alarms filled the ship. Explosions ripped through the vessel. The dragon was fighting, using powers that could not understand. Fire and lightning came from the dragon's claws and mouth, but the attackers kept coming. They were many and they were determined. The dragon was wounded, badly wounded. It managed to escape the ship in a small transport vessel. It fled through space, away from the attackers, away from its home, away from everything it knew. The transport crashed on Earth, in the mountains not far from his farm. When the images stopped, was on his knees in the dirt. His head was spinning, tears were running down his face. You are not just any dragon, whispered. You are a leader, a commander of something huge. The dragon made a sound that might have been agreement or sadness or both at once. My name is, the words came into his mind like a voice made of pure thought. I am the supreme commander of the intergalactic coalition. I control the peace across 3,000 worlds. Billions of lives depend on my leadership. Could barely breathe. Why are you telling me this? Why me? Because I trust you, sent the thought into his mind. You helped me when I was broken and dying. You asked nothing in return. You protected me even when you did not know what I was. Humans like you are rare. Even in my position of power, I have never found such kindness. What happened? Asked who attacked you. Conspiracy. Thought carried anger and pain. Officials within the coalition believe they can seize power if I am gone. They orchestrated the attack. They wanted to kill me and blame it on an external enemy. The blame would justify a war. The war would give them power over billions of more worlds. But they failed to kill you, said. They failed, but they are still looking. They believe I am weak or dead. If I remain hidden, they will assume I am dead and take full control. When that happens, the war they plan will begin. It will destroy millions of worlds. Billions will die. Stood slowly. He felt the weight of what was telling him. The entire future of the universe rested on whether this dragon survived or not. That was too much power for anyone to carry, but had been carrying it alone. "What do you need?" asked. "I need to reach a secure location, a place where I can contact the few leaders I trust. My loyal forces can then move against the conspirators, but I am still weak. I cannot fly far. I need a guide, someone who knows the land, someone the hunters will not suspect." "I will help you," said. "I do not understand most of what you have told me. I am just a farmer, but I understand right and wrong. What they are doing is wrong. I will help you reach safety." Lowered its head again. "Thank you, Hayes. You are brave." "I am not brave," said. "I am terrified. But my wife taught me a long time ago that the only way to live with fear is to do the right thing anyway. So I will do the right thing." Over the next week, planned. He studied maps. He identified a secure location many miles away in the forest. There was an old ranger station that had been abandoned for years. Had told him that loyal coalition forces had left communication equipment there before the conspirators could find it. Getting there would not be easy. The dragon could not fly. It was still too weak. It had to travel on foot through the forest and mountains, staying hidden. If the hunters saw them, everything would be lost. Prepared supplies, food, water, bandages in case was injured again. He studied the terrain carefully. He found paths through the forest that would be hidden from roads and settlements. The night before they were supposed to leave, could not sleep. He lay in bed and thought about his wife. He thought about how she had always pushed him to help others, to be brave, to stand up for what was right. Even in her final days, when she was in terrible pain, she had thought about others. She had tried to comfort instead of letting him comfort her. "I think you would like this dragon," whispered into the darkness. "I think you would want me to help it." The next morning and began their journey. The dragon moved slowly but steadily through the forest, walked beside it, watching for danger. They did not use the roads or the paths that humans used. They stayed in the deep wilderness where few people ever went. For 3 days, they traveled without incident. They were almost to the ranger station when heard the sound of engines. A group of vehicles was moving through the forest, cutting off their path. "Grab Snick, hide now." They dove into a thick ravine filled with rocks and deep brush. The vehicles passed nearby but did not see them. For hours they stayed hidden, could feel his body shaking. The dragon was weakening. The long journey was taking its toll. But did not give up. The dragon kept moving, forward, always forward. Finally, as the sun was setting on the 4th day, they reached the ranger station. It was a small concrete building, mostly hidden by trees. Opened the door and together they entered. Inside, hidden behind a loose panel in the wall, was a communication device. It was the most advanced technology had ever seen. Touched it with one claw and the device came to life. The dragon sent a message out into the void of space. A message to the loyal leaders of the coalition. A message that told them the truth about the conspiracy. Then and waited, the response came within hours. Messages flooded into the ranger station from across the galaxy. Leaders of the coalition were mobilizing. They were moving against the conspirators. The tide was turning. But the conspirators were not finished. They had not given up, and had been hiding in the ranger station for only 2 days when the attackers found them. These were not ordinary soldiers. These were mercenaries, highly trained, highly equipped. They surrounded the ranger station with weapons and vehicles. The leader of the mercenaries called out through a speaker, "You are surrounded. Exit the building with your hands raised. Resistance will result in death." Looked at, "I will not let you be taken." The dragon's thought came into his mind. "Stay inside, keep the door locked." "No," said aloud, "if you go out there alone, they will kill you." "Then they will kill us both." Stood and walked toward the door, "But they will not take you alive, I will make certain of that." Pushed open the door and walked out into the sunlight. The mercenaries opened fire immediately. Could not stay inside. He could not abandon his friend. He ran to the door and watched as fought. The dragon was unlike anything had ever imagined. Power radiated from his body like heat from a fire. Bullets bounced off the dragon's scales as if they were nothing. Claws slashed through the air and vehicles exploded. The dragon's tail whipped around and mercenaries flew backward through the air. Fire came from his mouth, hot and bright and terrible. It engulfed 3 mercenaries in seconds. They screamed. Then they were gone. The mercenaries were strong and skilled, but they were no match for a dragon. 5 of them lay on the ground, 8 more, 3 more. They kept fighting and kept dying. Some tried to run, did not let them. But the mercenaries were more numerous than had thought, was still not completely healed. A bullet found a weak spot in the dragon's left wing, cried out. Another bullet caught the dragon in the shoulder. Did not think. He did not consider the danger or the odds. He ran out of the ranger station and picked up a rifle that a dead mercenary had dropped. He had learned how to shoot many years ago. He found a position behind a rock and started firing. He was not trying to kill anyone. He was just trying to help. He fired at mercenaries who were aiming at. He fired at mercenaries who were running toward the dragon. His shots were accurate. Several mercenaries went down. Then a mercenary saw and fired at him. The bullet tore through his arm. Pain exploded through his body, fell to the ground. Blood poured from the wound. He had been shot, really shot. It hurt worse than anything he had ever experienced. He could barely move his arm, but he kept the rifle in his other hand. He kept firing. Saw go down and something changed in the dragon. The energy around seemed to increase. The dragon's eyes flared with rage and something else, something ancient and terrible. Moved with terrifying speed. The remaining mercenaries did not have time to react. The dragon ended the battle in seconds. When it was finished, only and remained alive in that field. Ran too, the dragon's enormous head bent down over the wounded man, could feel hot breath on his face, hot and clean and alive. You were shot, thought came into his mind with emotion and concern. I know, said, it hurts. You should not have exposed yourself, you could have died. I know that too, smiled despite the pain, but you would have died without my help. You are more important than I am. Billions of lives depend on you. Made a sound that was half roar and half sob. That is not true. Your life matters to me. Lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was in the ranger station and his arm was bandaged. Was there, lying on the floor beside him. The dragon's eyes were closed, but could feel the warmth of the creature's body next to his. Was alive, wounded, but alive. The dragon had used powers beyond his understanding to stop the bleeding and prevent infection. The bandages were made from the dragon's own scales and some kind of salve that had produced. Could feel the wound was already beginning to heal. The battle had bought them time. The loyal forces of the coalition were closing in on the conspirators. Messages continued to come through the communication device. The conspirators were being arrested one by one. Their plans were falling apart. 5 days later, a ship arrived. Not a threatening ship, a ship bearing the markings of the coalition. Loyal soldiers emerged and secured the area. Stood for the first time in days. The dragon was still wounded but strong. The dragon was still the supreme commander. A soldier approached. You will come with us. We must get your wound treated properly. No, said, I will go nowhere. Needs help to get back to the coalition fleet. I will be fine now. Thought came into his mind. You have done enough. You have risked your life. You have saved me. Let them care for your wound. Let them take you back. You have a galaxy to run, said. People are waiting for you. Was taken to the ship. The wound in his arm was treated by advanced medical technology that healed it almost completely. He barely had a scar. But he wanted to stay. He kept asking about. The soldiers told him the dragon was recovering. That the dragon was already communicating with leaders across the galaxy. That the conspirators were being tried and convicted. And then the day came when was told he was free to go. A soldier escorted him to the planet's surface, to his farm. When the ship descended and the door opened, saw waiting for him. The dragon stood on his porch, fully healed now, beautiful and strong and alive. Ran to and embraced him. It was the last time the dragon would embrace him as a friend in hiding. The last time before duty called the dragon back to the stars. The conspirators were tried in a great tribunal that was broadcast across 1,000 worlds. They had planned to start a war that would have killed billions of people. They had tried to murder the supreme commander. They had wanted power at any cost. The evidence was overwhelming. The trials lasted weeks. In the end, the conspirators were found guilty. They were sentenced to imprisonment on a world with no violence and no freedom. It was considered a mercy sentence by the coalition standards. But the real victory was different. The real victory was that the conspiracy had failed. The billions of lives that would have been lost in the planned war were saved. The coalition remained stable and peaceful. Worked without rest for months. The dragon met with leaders from across the galaxy. The dragon worked to repair the damage that the conspiracy had caused. Trust between different worlds had to be rebuilt. Treaties had to be renewed. The great machine of galactic peace had to be started again. Through all of this thought about, the dragon sent messages to Earth, received them in his home. In each message expressed gratitude and something deeper. A genuine friendship that had formed between a human and a dragon in the darkness of the farm. Then, after 6 months, returned to Earth. Was working in his garden when he saw the ship descend from the sky. It landed in the field next to his house. A door opened and emerged. The dragon was different now, fully healed, bearing the marks of leadership. But when the dragon saw, the ancient eyes softened with something that might have been love. Walked toward, and the dragon came to meet him halfway. Thank you sent the thought directly into his mind. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for believing in me when I was broken and lost. I just did what was right, said aloud. You did more than that, said. You showed me that kindness still exists in the universe, that compassion is not weakness, that one person with a good heart can change everything. Extended one wing and wrapped it around gently. I have a gift for you. The dragon continued. I have been consulting with the leaders of the coalition. We have decided to offer humanity a place among the great civilizations. You will be recognized as an ally species, the equal of any other power in the galaxy. Felt tears running down his face. Why me? Why would you do this for me? Because you saved me, said simply. And because I want the universe to know what I know, that humans are exceptional, that humans have the capacity for greatness that many advanced species have lost. Will you stay? Asked, just for a little while. I cannot stay long. My duties call me back to the stars, but I will stay for today. Let us sit on your porch and watch the sunset together. And walked to the house. They sat on the porch, on a chair and on the ground beside him. The sun moved slowly across the sky, painting it orange and gold and pink. Told stories about his wife. He told the dragon about his life before the dragon came. He told the dragon about his dreams and his fears and his loneliness. Listened, the dragon understood every word. As the sun touched the horizon, stood, it was time to go. I will see you again. Sent the thought into his mind. I promise you that. Though my duties are great and my time is limited, I will find ways to visit. You are my friend, Hayes. You are the bravest human I have ever known. I am not brave, said. I am just a farmer who helped a dragon. No, said. You are a human who did the right thing when it was harder than anything you had ever done. That is the definition of courage. That is the definition of greatness. Walked toward the ship, walked beside the dragon. At the base of the ramp, lowered its head one last time and touched its forehead against its forehead. Thank you, said without words. Thank you for everything. Then the dragon climbed into the ship. The door closed. The engines ignited with a sound like thunder. The ship rose slowly into the air. Stood in his field and watched as the ship climbed higher and higher. It became a point of light against the darkening sky. Then it disappeared completely. Turned and walked back to his house. He felt the weight of what had happened settling on his shoulders. He had saved the greatest leader in the galaxy. He had helped prevent a war that would have destroyed billions of lives. But mostly, he had made a friend. Over the following years, life changed. Humans were recognized as full allies in the galactic community. Trade began between Earth and dozens of worlds. Technology was shared. Knowledge was exchanged. Humanity advanced rapidly. But never sought fame or power. He remained on his farm. He continued to work the land and tend his crops. He continued to live simply. Sometimes, late at night when he looked at the stars, he would see a shadow pass across the moon. A shadow with wings. He knew that was thinking of him. He knew that the dragon was watching over his friend from the vast distances of space. And would smile. He did not need glory or recognition. He did not need wealth or power. He had something more important. He had the knowledge that one act of kindness had rippled across the entire universe, that his choice to help a stranger had saved billions of lives. He had a friend in the stars. One night sat on his porch with paper and a pen. He began to write down the story of what had happened. He wrote about the dragon that came to his farm. He wrote about the journey they shared. He wrote about the danger and the fear and the friendship that had formed between them. He did not write it for fame. He wrote it for truth. He wrote it so that someday people would know what had really happened, so that people would understand the power of kindness. As he wrote, the wind carried the words across the mountains. Years passed, decades passed. The story spread from person to person, from world to world. Humans began to tell their children about the farmer who saved the galaxy, not with weapons or technology, but with compassion, with kindness, with the simple choice to do what was right. The story became a legend, and on a distant station in the far reaches of space read the words that had written. The dragon smiled if dragons could smile. The dragon was proud of its friend. The dragon would always be proud. Lived to a good age. He watched his farm from his porch many times. He watched the sun rise and set countless times. He never married again. He did not need to. He had his memories. He had his friend in the stars. When finally passed away peacefully in his sleep, the sky itself seemed to mourn. A great ship descended to his farm one last time, emerged and stood alone beside the grave of the human who had saved the galaxy. The dragon wept, not tears but something deeper, an acknowledgement of loss and gratitude and love. "Thank you, friend," whispered across the wind. "Thank you for teaching me what it means to be truly great." And the dragon rose into the sky, returning to the stars, carrying the memory of a simple farmer who had changed the course of history with nothing but kindness and courage. The end.